With London International Shipping Week 2025 only a few months away, we're delighted to be speaking with Ben Palmer OBE, President of Inmarsat Maritime, our diamond sponsor. Inmarsat continues to power the digitalisation of the maritime industry, offering innovative solutions that enable ship owners and operators to stay connected and to navigate safely and enhance operational efficiency and ensure crew welfare. Ben has a wealth of business experience under his belt, starting with a demanding role within the UK's Ministry of Defence, where he was awarded an OBE, through to board and leadership roles at BAE Systems, Alex Partners and Northrop Grumman. He's a first-class corporate and business strategist, and quite frankly, one of the most energetic people I know. We're very honoured, and good to see you, Ben, very honoured to have Ben chairing a brand new LISW25 working group, which is focused on innovation and technology. Welcome to London Interviews, Ben. Good to see you.
Hi, Sean. Good to be with you. I'm not sure how energetic I'm feeling today, having just come off 3 weeks of travel, but I'll do my best.
Absolutely, sir. No problem at all. Really, just before we go in to talk about the working group, I mean, Inmarsat was really the first, if not one of the first, but I think the first sponsors to come on and supporters to come on for LISW way back in 2011 when we started to sort of come up with this idea of this amazing week. Well, what does LISW sort of bring? Why do you see there's a value there from an Inmarsat perspective, Ben?
Well, you're right, Sean. I think Inmarsat's been at the forefront of involvement in London International Shipping Week for a long time, and I'm a recent interloper because I've only really got involved in the last couple of rounds. You know, I think for us it's a cracking opportunity to showcase what the UK can do for the global shipping industry. This amazing, huge, complex industry that we all support in our various different ways. I think for Inmarsat, we've been the preeminent UK space company for a long time. We obviously have played a leading role in maritime safety going back 40 years, and then more recently in the communications environment. So for us, it's a great opportunity to be part of something that's celebrating our industry. You know, shipping is not always as obvious and as visible as some of the other great sectors that the UK is involved with, but it's a key underpinning of not only the global economy, but the UK's economy. And it's great to have the chance to showcase that. From a parochial perspective, it's obviously a super opportunity for us to engage with our key customers and stakeholders across the industry, across government, and across the various other adjacent sectors that are really, really important to us. And it comes this year at a pivotal time for Inmarsat because we're in the throes of launching an exciting new multi-orbit, multi-band, software-defined transmission, communications and connectivity service, Nexus Wave, which is really going to change, we think, the paradigm for maritime connectivity. And so it's a really great opportunity to be part of something really, really special.
And I think really when the week gets underway, you know, with the thousands of decision makers coming into London, there's a great opportunity there. There's going to be a lot of high-level discussion, you know, affecting all the issues that shipping is facing at the moment. And certainly, I want to talk a little bit more in a minute about Nexus Wave as well, and get your thoughts on how that fits into the evolving landscape as well. Just coming on to the working group first. Now, you're chairman of the first LISW Innovation and Technology Working Group, Ben, and I sit on that with you as well. And in fact, we've had a couple of three very, very good meetings so far, and there's a real sort of enthusiasm and passion there to really embrace, and come up with deliverables that can be presented to LISW. But can you sort of outline some of the key objectives and themes that you want the working group to focus in on, and why it's important to bring it up at LISW at this stage?
Yeah, sure. And I think it is important. We often think about London as a centre of the global shipping industry. Less now, if we're honest, because of the number of ship owners and operators that are here, but really as a function of the tremendous financial, legal, insurance, shipbroking, the whole ecosystem that wraps around making the shipping world go round. And London's a key piece of that. But we sometimes forget that the UK is also a really important technology leader. I just touched on Inmarsat's heritage in this space, but there's an awful lot of really innovative thinking, or some really innovative technology-based companies coming to the fore. And I think I just felt, I know you and others also felt, that this was the time to showcase and shine a torch on some of those businesses too, and take advantage of the global shipping industry gathering in London to really highlight not only the innovation and the technology for its own right, although that's exciting, but also to talk about the use cases. Shipping has, I think it's fair to say, not always been the fastest sector to embrace cutting edge technologies and new ways of working. And there are all kinds of reasons why that's the case. But I think shipping has a fantastic opportunity right now to embrace the benefits of digitalization, to really exploit what big data, autonomy, machine learning can do to drive both efficiency and effectiveness. There's a huge opportunity to think about, I think, how we deliver welfare for crew, if you like. How do we keep the extraordinary people who volunteer to spend their working careers far away from home on the high seas? And how do we keep them entertained? How do we keep them safe? How do we keep them well? How do we keep them in contact with their loved ones? And that's a really important piece of it. And then, of course, I think, too, there are two other kind of what I would call slightly existential questions around which technology and innovation are playing a major role in addressing. One is around the whole decarbonisation challenge. How does the logistics industry, but the end-to-end shipping industry, kind of face up to its commitments around ridding its operations end-to-end of carbon? And there's some lofty goals, and actually technology is going to be a big piece of unlocking the progress that's required. And then right now, of course, Sean, and I've sort of given up reading the newspapers on a daily basis. I get a weekly synopsis now because things are changing so fast. But geopolitically, a world of incredible geopolitical instability, uncertainty. The sad reality is that technology has got a lot to do with helping companies to keep safe and secure, and helping companies in the shipping industry to preserve their ability to operate in a world which is, unfortunately going through a lot of change and instability right now. So, those are the kind of four themes that the group is kind of thinking around, and I think that's a good basis for showcasing some of the talent, bringing some of the expertise and innovation to the fore, and really engaging the industry as a whole. Ship owners, operators, managers, insurers, other stakeholders, and of course government in what technology and innovation can do to unlock value in that quite dynamic world.
And I think you touched on there with the government, and I think that's an element that really got us all quite fired up, really, because they work so closely with us here on LISW through the Board of Advisors and the steering group. We are able to then to have that sort of connection with them, to educate them as well, I suppose, on that. But looking at, you talked about geopolitics, decarbonisation, looking at the crew element. You've got the safety, you've got then also the need to drive value to the bottom line as well in the shipping industry. How agile is shipping, do you think? Because you always have this sort of early adopters and then the laggards. We know that, and when you've got 104,000 ships out there, depending on which deadweight tonnage level you look at, there's a lot of discrepancy, isn't there, between companies that are taking it up, benefiting from AI and machine learning and technology, and others who aren't. Does that throw up a lot of opportunities?
Well, I think it throws up. I like to think of the world in terms of opportunities and challenges, and depending on which way you hold them up, they're either one or the other, or oftentimes both. And I think you're right. Look, there are some fantastically innovative, forward-looking businesses that have really grasped the benefits in terms of reducing their costs, doing things more safely, actually opening up new business models to deliver value to their customers from embracing the power of data, the ability to extract insight from the massive amounts of data, whether that's around the sort of traditional piece around health and usage monitoring and predictive maintenance and the machinery, the plant, if you like, that a major ship comprises, whether it's around reducing their fuel costs, being more efficient in their operations, extracting competitive advantage from route optimization and route planning and those sorts of technologies, or whether it's just actually reducing churn in their human capital, because we know that we know that people are usually our most important asset, and they're scarce. Good people are scarce in the maritime world because the times have changed, and not everybody wants to go explore the world in a way that they may have done, say, 30 or 40 years ago. And so, all of those use cases are being exploited by, some of our customers, some of the shipping industry. But you're right, Sean, it's a fragmented space. There are, for every leader, there's a lagger.
Yeah.
And I think also there are some, habitual challenges around, investing for the long term in the capabilities that will derive the benefits. And I think as technology advances, particularly as ubiquitous connectivity, becomes the norm, because connectivity is kind of the oxygen that will breathe life into a lot of the value-adding business use cases that a lot of the technology players will want to demonstrate. I think the industry, that there'll always be leaders, but I guess the opportunity is for those that haven't yet gone down that path to really wake up to the opportunities that exist.
But I think you know that whole issue about connectivity, you need to have effective connectivity, ship to shore, to do all of these things that the must have and the nice to have that we're talking about here. And I'm even hearing of situations where sort of seafarers can maybe talk to their families through these sort of hologram type scenarios, but you need good connectivity, and to be able to have that talking to your family there in a little box in your cabin or so would be amazing, and that is stuff of the future. But you need that high level connectivity, don't you? And it's happening.
You do, and I think that's been a major constraint. If I think about the half-life of innovations in communications over the last several years, I mean, we've seen dramatic innovation from the old L-band to the VSAT age, the Ka and Ku age, and now we have LEOs, and sort of stitch all that together in a kind of multi-orbit managed service, which I think gives people the trust and certainty that they have the resilient global always-on communications that people putting themselves in peril on the high seas need to depend on, both from a business perspective, but also from a people perspective. I think Sean, we kind of talk these days about ships as both offices, and so companies, businesses want to be able to do in their business space seamlessly what they do onshore, offshore. These are massive assets, expensive assets. They want to be able to optimize and make use of cloud-based technologies. They want to be able to communicate effectively from a business perspective. They want to extend augmented reality and training. They want to be able to do remote operations and inspections and connectivity advancements, unlocking all of that. And at the same time, we talk about ships being a home, a floating home. And again, people want and expect to get the same connectivity experience at sea as they would sitting where you and I are on dry land. We're in our offices, but we have spoken before from our home. That's becoming it's probably not helpful to talk about connectivity as the new human right. But I think for a lot of people, you're right, being able to seamlessly talk to their friends and family, watch their favorite football team, surf the internet, do their shopping, their banking, have a doctor's appointment, catch up with their professional development. All of those things require seamless connectivity, and that's what we're making happen today. So it's a really exciting time, I think, from a connectivity provider's perspective, to be talking about this, and that's why London International Shipping Week's such a great show and a great event. But I think it's also really attractive from a technologist perspective. It's a really good time to be showcasing some of those new products and offerings. And then you mentioned government, Sean. I do want to cover that because I think everything that we've been talking about, decarbonisation, security, workers' welfare, growth, making the pie bigger, global trade expansion, and these are all critical issues for Her Majesty's government in the UK. And they're critical too for the other governments that will be coming and participating in LISW. So I think it's the right time for this kind of discussion.
No, I agree with you on that, and I think even when you look at from an international regulatory perspective through the IMO and the Single Maritime Window, and pushing digitalization and technology out into the shipping industry where all elements can talk to each other, that is the way forward. And I think what's going to be exciting for this LRSW, the sort of number of international delegations that are going to be coming into London during the week. Now that they sort of bring their politicians in who then have the bilaterals with each other, but they also have the trade missions that come in on the back of it as well. And I think that's going to be quite exciting. The maritime satellite market has gone through considerable disruption over the past 2 to 3 years. And before we come on to Nexus Web, because I want to get your views on that, how do you view these changes? Positive, negative, both. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I think, as you know, and I think you mentioned at the beginning, I'm not a kind of satellite communications lifer. I've made a career out of coming into situations which are oftentimes, challenging or challenged, being disruptive, where there's a sort of complex set of changes going on. And I guess my job when I arrived here was to try to make sense of what was going on and plot a path to the future. But I think we have been extremely disrupted by the injection of new technologies. Let's put a name on it: the new LEO-based low Earth orbit satellite constellations being aggressively promoted, and Delwyn said very aggressively funded too by extremely wealthy individuals. One is out there already in the marketplace, and there are others, benefiting from the same kind of focus, entrepreneurial drive, and investment that we've seen already. Now, on the one hand, that's discomforting for any incumbent. A lot of so coming into the space, I found there were a lot of discomforted and uncomfortable folks. The way I've tried to frame it for people is, isn't it brilliant that we are in a market which is growing like Billio? Because demand for, as we've been discussing, the demand for connectivity is growing and continues to grow exponentially over time for the reasons that we were discussing earlier on in our chat. But isn't it brilliant to be in a market which is really growing and is attracting the investment of serious capital from very successful companies and individuals who want to get in and have a slice of that pie? Now, if you're the market leader who's been very serious player with a well-respected brand and a massive installed base, that's on the one hand discomforting, but it's also a spur to improvement and innovation ourselves. And I'd much rather be an established player in a market that's growing, which is attracting new investment, than somebody that was trying to start from scratch. So we, it's been on the one hand discomforting. On the other hand, it's been quite inspiring because it's forcing us to go full circle from where we started, to embrace technology in a different way to drive innovation. And so the last couple of years for us have really been about reinventing Inmarsat, now part of a bigger company, Viasat, based in California, leveraging our brand, our reputation, our global coverage, the deep loyalty that our customers have with us, the huge install base, and pivoting into being a trusted provider of resilient, reliable, multi-orbit, multi-band services, which provide customers with the certainty and the trust. And also, if you like, that trust and certainty extending over time, the ability to grow the product as their usage changes and expands over time, and that's what Nexus has really been all about. So, tough times, uncertain times, tough times, challenging times, but also inspiring times, and it's been a real spur, I think, for us to do our own thinking about.
When I talk to the industry, whether owners, managers, operators, whatever, they're all talking about how they can embrace digitalization, how they can drive in value, how they can they're looking at new ideas, learning from other sectors, learning from the aviation sector. What can we do that they're doing and do it better? And that is all good news for companies like yourselves, because that just means that more elements of the shipping industry are going to be getting involved in this side. And they need connectivity. They need to have, the sort of services there. Talk to us a little bit about Nexus Wave, though, Ben. You touched on it a minute ago, but how it sort of fits into all of this evolving landscape.
You've done well to hold me back, Sean, on talking about that. But I think just a sentence on what you just said, because I think what we have recognised that the real basis of our ability to differentiate is going to be in our ability in our software defined capabilities. It's going to be in our system integration capabilities. It's going to be in our ability to produce and manage a really classy end-to-end customer experience, which enables customers to really not worry about which network they're on or whose satellite they're actually connected to, but to have the kind of seamlessness of experience that takes all that worry away for them and just enables them to get on with their business, utilizing the connectivity that they require and exploiting that to make use of the whatever business or as it were crew applications that they've decided to invest in. And that's really been putting a kind of seamless differentiated level of customer experience at the heart of what we do, and knitting the various different underlays, our organic existing GEO satellites, both in L-band and KA, with a LEO underlay, with the LTE that comes together, knitting that together in a quite clever way and bonding that. What I mean by that is stacking the capacities and capabilities on top of each other, so you get to use all of it when it at the same time, as opposed to switching between the one that's the best at wherever you are on the globe. That's massively enhancing the capacity and the throughput that we can deliver. North of 340 megabits per second on the download is kind of we're seeing pretty often, and that's really exciting. But it's also removing, because it comes in a package with a single bill, the hardware is included, the service is included, the capacity is uncapped, and so it's removing the headache, if you like, of having to think about this from the customer, allowing the customer. I mean, let's face it, it's a bit like at home. I mean, your internet subscription doesn't cost you a lot of money as a percentage of your monthly budget, but boy, do you notice if it's down.
Yeah,
and boy, do you notice how it impacts on your ability to operate, whether that's as a business individual or just in your home life. And boy, does it create friction. I have three. I just call them young adult sons, and boy, does it create friction if the bloody internet's not working. So what I mean is, it's a relatively low proportion of your budget, but it has significant externality impacts on your quality of life. And so what we're offering with Nexus is to pull all that together, provide a superior connectivity offering, but do it in a way that is convenient for the customer. And the reaction that we've had, we're working pretty hard through the last year to bring this to market, and the reaction we've had since we launched it only 3 months ago has been really, really encouraging. And we're seeing a lot of customer interest and ramping up our install base, which is really, really good to see.
I mean, it's sort of bringing what we experience and expect on shore to the seafarers at sea. I mean, when we travel from one country to the other, we don't, as long as we've just got our internet, we don't really care. We don't mind how it happens, as long as we're not paying any more money than we expect to be paying, and we're getting that service. So that shows you the advancements that are being made in that area. That's absolutely amazing. I want to come on just finally really looking at London now. I mean, as I said, you've been massively involved and very supportive and very, 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 very thankful for that, because it's not when you start something like this and it is a journey, when you've got companies like Inmarsat there working with you, and you and I work very closely on for a number of years now, Ben, on LISW. We know that we're going in the right direction, and LISW is all about collaboration and about transparency. And so thank you very much indeed for that and for that support over the last sort of 12, 13 years. It's meant an awful lot. First of all, looking at London as a maritime hub, what role do you think UK plays in the maritime market beyond the traditional finance, insurance centre of excellence? It is an area that people like to come and do business in. They do like to come to London. How would you like to see London develop even more? And this is maybe a little bit of a nod to government as well, I suppose.
There's a lot of technology cluster here as well. And I think that's really, really important. I think we have to recognise that London is an attractive place for people to come. It's an attractive place for people to do business, but we can't rest on our laurels. And we need government help to ensure that London and the UK retains its natural place. We've got a time zone advantage. We've got a language advantage. We've got a rule of law advantage. We've got a lot of technology. It's an attractive place to be. But we need to make sure that in the context of shaping our country to be an engine of growth, which is a real focus for the government, we got to make sure that we think in an integrated way about what that means. And London International Shipping Week is a really good opportunity to showcase that for ministers and senior officials in the context of what is a gazillion, trillion, whatever, $1 billion a year business, which enables, let's face it, 90% of the world's global economic activity to happen. And so I think that governments, getting specific, getting focused, thinking about how we can work in partnership with government.
But looking at the role that the UK plays within the world maritime market, and certainly London, how can it go beyond its traditional sort of reputation as a finance and reinsurance centre of excellence? And I guess that's a bit of a nod to government, because I think that's the important thing. They've got an important role to play in that, Ben. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we've got to first and foremost make sure that London stays a really attractive place for the world to come and do business. We deservedly have big clusters around those traditional commercial, legal, financial enabling activities, which are so important to sustaining and enabling the global logistics and shipping industry. So we've got to make sure that we make London a good place to be. It's already a fantastic city. It's a great UK has a lot of natural advantages by location, geography, language, time frame, rule of law, all of those good things. We got to make sure that we don't do anything that destabilizes that. And as we think about what the UK has to do to grow, thinking really systemically about that and plugging the maritime logistics shipping industries into that, I think is really important. I think for governments, I spent nearly 15 years of my life working in government. But I think oftentimes, shipping is not necessarily as obvious to people in government as it might be. It tends to get, if you're not careful, it becomes about the Royal Navy and it becomes about ferries because that's people's experience, or container ports and seaside towns. And all of those things are really important. But I think, too, it's worth thinking about the role that we play as a convener, as a marketplace, as a hub of data-driven software and systems engineering, application development and talent. And then I also think it's really important that we remember that there's this amazing building on the River Thames called the IMO, which is in London, and is the forum for the regulatory and rules-based development of the industry over time, and making sure that we pay appropriate attention across all of those different dimensions is going to be important. So, look, September is not far away, and I know that the government is engaged in our work in planning LISW, and I've no doubt that they'll be participating very fulsomely. And I've also no doubt that many of us will be taking the opportunity to register with them the importance of thinking in this way.
And just finally, you'll be busy during the week itself. You'll be holding events as well, and your lovely new offices there near Moorgate as well, I guess. And a bit of a sort of little snapshot on what we can maybe expect from you and from Inmarsat during the week.
Well, we usually hold an event to showcase what we're up to, but I think this year we're going to be doing a number of things as well as that. The technology working group is throwing up some interesting ideas about how to report back or showcase its finding, its work, whether that's around debating the merits of different regulatory structures in respect of decarbonisation, or thinking about the tangible steps that can be taken on the road to drive efficiency and effectiveness. We're going to get creative, I think, through the week. But for me, the week will be a blizzard of meetings, trying actually to get out of the comfort zone of talking to the usual people. There'll be thousands of people coming. There'll be lots of people we want to talk to. For me, one of the great attractions of it, though, is slipping away to sit in the back of a meeting or a seminar or a conference that is a bit sort of orthogonal to what I normally think about, and it's a good learning experience for me as well. So I'm quite looking forward to that too.
Ben, that's brilliant, and just thank you very, very much indeed for your time today. It's always I love talking to you. You and I have had a number of interviews over the years, and I find it fascinating getting your insight. I'm looking forward to continuing working with you on the working group. We're doing some great stuff there. And yeah, goodness me, LISW is not long away now. So a lot to look forward to there. But thank you very much indeed for your time today, Ben. And again, thank you very much to Inmarsat for all your support.
Hey, Sean, you've been very generous, and thanks a lot. Looking forward to continuing the partnership. And as you say, looking forward to a great week in September.
Thank you, sir.